What's going on, everyone? Jon Venus here, and I'm actually joined by a guest today, Jeff Nippard.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so Jeff is actually another fitness YouTuber, and he has a very awesome channel, very science-based. He goes in depth into exercises, reviews studies on different things, so it's a really interesting, unique channel, I'd say, and one of my favorite fitness channels out there, actually. Today we're actually tackling a topic which is the best exercise for each body part.
I feel like it's important to say that, like, when we're doing these videos, it's like if we had to pick one exercise, this would be the one we would do. It's like our favorite kind of thing. In the real world, you aren't limited to one exercise. You can combine movements, and I think that's generally the best way to do it.
Exactly.
Use variety, right?
You ready for this, man?
Let's do it, man. How about we start from the bottom up?
Bottom up. Interesting. Calves. I'll let you go first.
You want me to handle it? Okay.
There's only one calf exercise.
Exactly, just calf raises, right?
Exactly, yeah.
I actually have like a slightly unorthodox one for this. It's called a calf jump. So a lot of people find like the calf machine kind of like locks them into like an unnatural range of motion.
Right.
So what you can do is kind of like bend your knee a little bit as if you were gonna jump and then explode up against the machine.
Okay.
And so like as if you were actually gonna jump out of the machine.
Right, okay.
And so a lot of people just find that to be a lot more natural. And one way that I like to like really get the calves involved is to just have a slight pause at the bottom.
Right,
and that takes the kind of like emphasis off of the connective tissues, the Achilles tendon, and really puts it on the calf. So I like the calf jump.
I don't really play around too much with it. I actually never train calves.
Oh, do you?
I'm just kidding.
I don't either, dude. I just genetic. Like, I don't train them that much.
Well, in general, for quad development, in my opinion, I would go with narrow stance squats. That's what I feel the quads the most. Or front squats. I like to keep my feet a little bit closer than the regular squats, and then I go down pretty slowly. I keep the weight pretty light and just focus on going slowly down and then explode up again. So pretty simple stuff.
I would say exactly the same thing. I don't think there's any better builder for the quads than just the back squat or the front squat, like you said. In some cases, people might have an injury that doesn't allow them to squat, in which case I'd probably recommend the leg press.
Like yourself.
As an alternative. That's what I'm forced to do. But yeah, squat is like the best for quad development, definitely.
What about hamstrings?
Hamstrings are interesting. Hamstrings are one of the bodies, it's called a biarticular muscle. So it actually crosses two joints. So it does two things. It flexes the knee, so basically bends it like you would see in a leg curl. It also extends the hip, so something like you see in a Romanian deadlift.
Right.
So I think that it's really important to include both of those in your routine. So I would have to give like two. If I had to pick one, it would probably be the curl, just because you get some hip extension trained from the squat if you're going to include
Which variation, the lying one or the seated one?
I actually like the seated one better. I find
really?
I'm able to cheat less because I'm a little bit more locked in, and I can just get like a better mind-muscle connection with my hamstrings, but they're functionally kind of the same movement.
Yeah.
The other one would be a Romanian deadlift or a stiff-legged deadlift. I personally like Romanian deadlift.
Glutes. You train glutes, man?
Do you?
Yes, I do.
I feel like a lot of females, a common request that I hear is that they want to grow the butt without growing the quads. So I think that probably the best one for that would be the barbell hip thrust. So yeah, just like it will hurt unless you have like a pad to go around the barbell, and then kind of like just thrust your hips forward. I think that's the best one.
I don't think that anyone will argue on this one. It's pretty much the top one.
Yeah, I agree. Lunges are also really good.
Yeah, I actually also enjoy a lot Bulgarian split squats. Those are glutes.
Yeah,
those are amazing. Let me start on that one. Abs. Wow.
Do you train abs first?
I used to train abs. The hanging leg raise, but all the way up, and then control it slowly down. So that's the one that, you know, just targets the whole abdominal area from the bottom of the core to the top part of the abs. I just find that to be very effective.
Interesting. Yeah, I do like the hanging leg raise. One thing I don't like about it is I find it's like I can get swing a nice bit. So I like to have like a support behind my back, like I have a partner hold me or like something like
that'd be amazing.
I probably just don't have the stabilization to do it personally, but if you can, it's great. I have lately been doing a decline weighted medicine ball crunch throw, if that makes sense. So it's like you come back, you have a partner, and you do like the full sit up or whatnot, but like you'd throw the ball at the top. And what I find it does is like it doesn't, like you tend to kind of like slow down as you come through the range of motion, but the ball, when you throw it, it allows you to like sort of forcefully contract at the top. It makes it a little bit more dynamic, and it's more fun. It's like you're throwing the ball while you're doing it. I personally hate training abs, but like if I have someone to like throw a ball with, it just makes it better for some reason.
Everything becomes more fun with balls.
Can't vouch for that. My girlfriend can.
Jeff, you had to start with that one.
I would say the barbell row.
Interesting.
Yeah, that would probably be the one. Because it hits the lats, it hits the traps, it's like hits the lower back erectors and stabilization. And it's like a tried and true movement. Like you have like the guys with the big backs, they all rode really heavily.
Yeah.
I was super tempted to put a pull up in there, but I won't try to sneak that in.
Yeah. So mine is gonna be very unusual. I know that, you know, rack pulls and all that kind of stuff, the compound movements are better, but for me, for some reason, I wasn't able to develop my back well enough doing those movements. But what I found works the best for me is doing pretty heavy lat pullovers with the cable, with the wide grip like lat pull down bar.
Gotcha.
And you just like bring it down slowly to your hips and just control the negative really slowly, stretch at the top. It's more of an isolation movement, but it's actually been developing my back really well lately. Traps. Let's do traps. Shrugs?
Shrugs, yeah.
Yeah?
I think shrugs are good. It's actually controversial, like in the scientific community, whether or not they actually hit the traps or they hit another smaller muscle called the levator scapulae.
Oh, okay.
They've done some studies on cadavers where they find that the traps actually don't attach at the scapula, so they can't elevate it.
Okay.
But I just find that like when I do a shrug, I feel my traps contracting.
Yeah, for sure.
So something is doing the raising there, and whether it's raising the clavicle or the scapula or whatever the case may be, it's quite clearly active.
Yeah.
And when they measure it with EMG, they find that the traps are active in the shrug. Pretty active. So it is actually a good movement. I experience a bit of resistance from that in the community because people say that like, well, maybe face pulls are better. But when I do face pulls, I don't really feel my traps as much. I actually do this weird exercise that's gonna be really hard for me to explain on camera, but it's basically I lie down on the floor, set the rope up high, and do a shrug back towards, so like, it's like an inverted shrug.
Right.
And so I kind of squeeze back like this, if that makes sense. Like I squeeze my shoulder blades together, and at the same time, I keep my shoulders shrugged up. So it's kind of like, it looks like this. It's like a short range of motion.
Interesting, yeah.
And I really feel a strong contraction there. So it's like really good for like kind of like the traps and like back of the neck. You'll really feel it.
Yeah, one exercise that I feel my traps a lot is when I do the cable upright row. I actually feel my traps a lot.
That's
so
a good one too.
Apart from the shrugs, I would actually choose the upright row with a rope. I know this is a exercise a lot of people stay away from. A lot of people criticize because there's a lot of people who get injured doing the upright row, I feel, in the community. So you know, just be careful with it. Yeah. Okay, next up, chest. So I'm gonna go first on this one, Jeff. Dumbbell press, I think, will be the best one for engagement because I feel like a lot of people do bench press, but the problem for me with bench press is that since it's a bar, it doesn't allow you to get like a full stretch. If you have a small chest, it may not make a big difference, but if you have a lot, like put on some size on your chest, I feel like with dumbbells you can get more of a stretch at the bottom. I
mean, a dumbbell press, barbell press, they're like pretty functionally similar movements. I prefer the bench press just because I'm also a power lifter. And I feel like I've added a lot of size to my chest as a result of bench pressing. So
do you feel like you get a mind muscle connection when you're doing heavy bench pressing? Or?
I don't really, but the effects have just been like really clearly evident over the years of doing it. And like there is some research to support the exercise. Like you have studies that follow people over say 12 weeks, all they do is bench press, and they get substantial results as a result of that just alone. So it is a good exercise for building the pecs. I do hear the argument that the range of motion is a little bit limited. To make up for that, I just like include a fly where you have like a strong stretch at the bottom, right? So when you combine exercises, those issues go away. If you're trying to pick one, I would probably agree with you. Like maybe the flat dumbbell press might be the best one, or maybe an incline if your upper pecs are a little bit behind.
He's got it down. Bench press work for sure. So next up will be shoulders. Shoulders,
yeah. I think that if you have a bench press already in the routine, because we already included that, I would say a lateral raise. I think that developing your side delts is like really critical to making that like sort of like X-frame shape. So I'd say lateral raises are probably the best thing you can do, and just like really control it. Like don't turn it into a lower back.
Which variation do you go with? With cable or?
I switch it up. I think cables would probably be my favorite just because it's a little bit more of a constant resistance curve. With the dumbbells, it gets way harder as you get here. So like you could probably do like on 40s or 50s until you get to here, and then you end up having to cheat. Whereas with the cables, it's more constant, so you can kind of feel the tension through the whole range.
I wasn't expecting you to say that because that was exactly the one I was gonna say. I enjoy doing the cables, but I find that I get a better contraction when I do a cables and I have my hand behind my back.
I think that makes sense because like in order to do it from the front, you almost have to get your front delt
I feel like
a little
exactly,
bit more.
yeah.
When you're behind, you're kind of forced to like kind of like internally rotate a bit, so it's like I can see that you get more side delt in that. For me, I find like my butt gets in the way.
Oh really?
Sometimes. It's like I don't know, yeah. So
yeah, it doesn't
I find
work for people with big booties. Biceps, okay. The thing that I've experienced the most growth from, I think, is like going really heavy on barbell bicep curls. I feel like using a straight bar just forces you to do the movement supinated.
One movement that I like that's a little bit different is it's called a Bayesian cable curl, and it's basically it's the same thing as any cable curl, except you start with your arm behind your upper torso, and you sort of like have your elbow back, and you just curl up like this with a cable. I don't know if you've ever seen it done. It's a little bit hard to describe, but you get a really good stretch at the bottom because your shoulder's kind of like hyperextended here, so the bicep is really stretched, and then you have like constant tension throughout the whole range of motion. Whereas even though it's a great bicep builder, like a barbell curl or whatever, you do have variable amounts of resistance throughout it because of like the fact that it's like you have way more of a torque right here than you do down here. With a cable, it's like much more constant, right? So it is a really good feel. Some people find it awkward. If I only had to include one, it would probably be like what you said, like just a standing curl.
Triceps, the last muscle to go through.
I think that the bench press is really good for triceps as well. I like a close grip bench press. So if you're training for strength at all, having a wide grip bench day and then a close grip bench day as like a power builder who like you care about strength and size a little bit, I think that's a really good tricep movement is the close grip bench press.